my goodness. What's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. September literally flew by. Like, this is the definition of it was gone in the blink of an eye. I'm not even kidding. I don't know where this month went, but it's nevertheless time for a monthly reading wrap up. And in the month of September, I managed to read 23 books and I cannot wait to talk about them. This month was absolutely stacked with thriller and horror books, with like a small smattering of a couple random genres, but for the most part, it's gonna be thriller and horror. On the plus side, I want to say that I pretty much loved most of what I read. There were only a few books in this stack that were just kind of okay or fell flat for me, but for the most part, yeah, I will be recommending a lot of these books. First up, because I just finished this book like 10 minutes ago, basically, I read an ARC copy of The Intruder by Freida McFadden, and let me tell you guys, I have always loved Freida's books, okay? I know that a lot of people feel passionately about her. Either they love her books or they can't stand her books. She is what got me into reading thrillers, and I loved almost everything I read from her in the very beginning. As I read more and more thrillers, my style of preference started to change, and I did start to enjoy her books slightly less. They were a little bit predictable, just hit or miss in general. But guys, I loved this book. This was so much fun, and it felt like old school classic Freida of like my beginning thriller era, and I really enjoyed this. First, we follow a woman named Cassie who's living in the woods. She's obviously escaping from the realities of the world. She's got some things in her past, and now she's just kind of living out here in seclusion, and that's the way she prefers it. Then we have a storm that comes, and during this storm, the weather is really, really bad, and she discovers that there is a young little girl hiding in her shed, and she is covered in blood. So she invites her to come wait out the storm inside of her home. This girl is very cagey. She is very on the defensive. She does not want to tell her name, her age. She doesn't want to answer any questions. And Casey is just trying her best to navigate that situation as the storm gets worse and worse. We follow a second point of view, which is a young girl through her childhood that is just atrocious. Her mother is a piece of crap, and she locks her in closets, and there's no food in the home. Her mother is a hoarder. The house is covered in junk, and you kind of go through this young girl's experience during her school and her home life, and the two stories eventually, obviously, they connect, but in a way that I just really did not see coming. I loved this book. This was so good, and one of my favorite quotes from this book I do want to read, because this is one of those things that makes me love like the plot of this book even more. My favorite quote from this is, "What can I say? I'm a sucker for a child abuser getting what they deserve." And I could not agree with that more. This was so good. I loved it. Then I read Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. This one was good, but it really just didn't blow me away. I felt like there were a lot of things about this one that I would have changed if I could, but that's not how reading works. But I did enjoy it overall. It just wasn't a favorite of mine, especially compared to a lot of the other ones that I read. So this book is about a group of boys that are in an orphanage in a very remote location, and it's run by priests. It also takes place in 1905, so it has like an old school atmospheric vibe going on. But I want to say that like the spookiness of this story lacked atmosphere for the very first half. Like, the atmosphere could have been so much more than what it was, I guess I can say. But basically, these boys are living in these really strict conditions, and they have a lot of rules to follow and that kind of thing. But one night, a group of men shows up and knocks on the door, and one of these men is badly, badly injured, and he also has symbols carved into his body. And this invites an entire world of evil into the camp that affects all of the people there, basically. For sure, at the halfway point, this book got more and more intense, and I really enjoyed like the direction that it took toward the end and like from the middle into the entire end. Like I really enjoyed that, but the beginning was just a little bit slow, a little bit more on the boring side, and it did lack that intensity and that atmosphere that I love in these types of books. Overall, it was okay. I give it 3.5 stars. I also forgot to mention, Freida, I just finished this one, so it hasn't really sat with me, but I'm between a 4 and a 4.25 stars on this book. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one, and 3.5 for this one is what I went with. Then I read Darcy Coates' new book, How Bad Things Can Get. Darcy Coates is one of my favorite authors. I love her cozy horror aspect that she just does so well. All of her haunted house books are such a good time, and I will read anything that she writes. This one was not my favorite though. I was it was very different than anything else that she has written. It just really didn't seem like a Darcy Coates book at all. And it was also on the longer side, so I did feel like the story was very drawn out at times. It is about a very successful influencer who invites several hundred people onto this private island to participate in a party and games and the potential to win prizes. We follow the main character, Ruth, who as a child was raised in a cult, and she was the only one left alive, so her story was famous. However, as she grew up, she changed her name and is living in hiding, so nobody knows that that's who she is, even though her story is very well known. She's on this island with a group of her friends, and the island gets very creepy and really sinister things start to happen. That's basically the plot of the story. But what I will say about it is, despite the fact that I did think it was drawn out, the gore, the craziness, the sinister and haunting aspects of the story toward the ending were super entertaining and super well done, and I really did enjoy those parts. But overall, I just felt like I didn't love the influencer Mr. Beast vibe of playing games and winning prizes that it kind of had going on. It wasn't my favorite. I did love the cult vibes, but that part of the story wasn't elaborated on as much as I would have liked it to be. Overall, it was okay. I have had a lot of friends tell me that they really loved it, so I think I might be the minority in this one, but I gave it 3 stars, and it for sure wasn't my favorite of hers. Moving on, I feel like I'm yapping a lot, but here we go. Okay, the next one I read, well, not in this order, but I also read The Final Scene by Steph Nelson. This one sat on my shelf for a really long time. I'm glad I finally picked it up. I really enjoyed this one. I did give it 4.25 stars. It is a held captive story. It's about this crazy psychopathic woman who kidnaps people and puts them to live inside of this cabin that's very secluded, and she forces them to play out and like reenact parts of her own life and childhood. She's got cameras that watch them. She's got a perimeter set up around the property that they can't pass because it will literally detonate. And it's the weirdest situation, but you follow these people who are trapped inside of this house and the one woman who has been held captive by her for over 10 years. This one was just really twisted, really just overall an enjoyable story, and yeah, that's this one. I really liked this one. Then I read Guillotine by Delilah S. Dawson. This is my first book from this author, and I've heard nothing but good things about all of her books, and this was a really good time. It's a shorter book, only about 200-ish pages, and it gets absolutely chaotic. Like literally the way I would describe this one is that all hell breaks out in this book. But it follows a girl who loves fashion. She loves the fashion industry, and she's aspiring to grow her career in that field. She is flirting her way into this boy's good side because his mother is a huge, well-known fashion guru. And he invites her to come to his family's private island to stay with them for like a little family staycation. So she gets to this island and they're making her sign NDAs, and she's like learning and seeing and witnessing how the top 1% live because they're extremely rich and just a prestigious family. But during her stay on the island, it happens to also be the time where all of the staff that work for this family have decided to get their revenge on this family. And like I said, all hell breaks loose and things just get absolutely wild. This was a really good time. I can't wait to read more of her books. For a rating, I gave this one 4 stars. Also, for a side note, ratings mean nothing. Like, if you like the sound of the book, read the book. It really doesn't matter what I rate it. My rating is just like what my reading experience was like as I read it. Unless it's a 5-star book, then you absolutely have to read those ones because those are perfection to me. Moving on. I read Victorian Psycho. This is by Virginia Feito. I don't know if I'm saying the last name correctly here, but this book was so much fun. I actually went into this one blind because the audiobook was available and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it sounds good. And I loved it so much that I ended up purchasing the physical copy, but the audio for this was so fun. I went in just randomly, like I was not planning on reading it. I had never seen reviews for it, never heard of it before, but yeah, I started this book and I could not put it down. Also, it's another shorter one, but this follows the story of a woman who takes on a job as a family nanny slash caretaker for children for this family, and she moves into their Victorian home, and you follow this story like kind of from inside of her point of view and her mind, and you can tell that there are immediate red flags with this woman, but it is very difficult to foresee where the story is going and what exactly her goals and intentions really are. Although you know she has them, you don't really know what they are, especially if you go in blind. If you read the synopsis inside of the book, it might give away some details. I didn't read it, so I don't know, but it might give away some details and give you more of an idea. But the blind aspect of it, for me, is what made it so much more fun and thrilling, and especially shocking in the end. I was shocked at the end. It was so fun. I gave this one 4.25 stars, definitely recommend. Very gruesome though, especially if you have a sensitivity to innocent little things being hurt, then you might not like this one. I don't know how to describe the trigger warnings without like spoiling anything, but if you have sensitive triggers, check them for this book. Then I read Last Stop Union Station by Sarah James. This is one of those books that is just way outside of my normal genres. Not a thriller, not a horror. It's more like historical fiction, I guess I would say, but it's also like a murder mystery whodunit book, and I have a very hard time with murder mysteries, especially when there's too many characters. I easily get lost. I don't form like attachments to any of the characters, and I end up just not caring who the hell did it. Like, that's just what happens with me. This was a different story. I really enjoyed this book. It follows the main character, who is a Hollywood diva, and she's such a diva that she's now being labeled in the industry as someone who is difficult to work with, so she's not getting many job opportunities. So she takes the only job opportunity that she can get, which is not paid. It's all for free, volunteer, but it's like her only option, and it is to go on a tour with a group of other celebrities on this like traveling train where they do like a traveling show. She goes, and on this train, one of the other celebrities is found dead in his little train car, and now they're investigating what happened, and who did it, right? The whodunit aspect. What I loved about this is that the female main character carried that diva energy throughout the entire story, and she was just so fun and entertaining that I really enjoyed it. She teams up with one of the cops on the case, and together they're over here trying to solve this crime, and she's got no experience with this kind of thing. It was just overall a really fun book. I gave this one 3.5 stars, but I said this when I reviewed this book over on TikTok. If you are someone who likes that mystery vibe and the whodunit style of book, I think you'll rate this one much higher because this was just really well done. Moving on, I want to talk about another book that I really, really enjoyed this month, and that is Too Old for This by Samantha Downing. And let me tell you guys, when this released, I was like, oh, I totally want to read that. But then I saw many of my friends say that they were disappointed by this book and that they didn't like it. Let me tell you, get the audiobook for this and just sit down and have a good time, because I loved this and the audio truly brought it to life. It follows an older woman who is fun and colorful and just has such a like enjoyable personality, and in her younger years she was a serial killer who got away with it. She is now way past those years. She's older, living on her own, just, you know, enjoying her little life. And a young girl knocks on her door one day asking all the wrong questions, saying that she wants to do a report on her, and she needs to stop asking these questions. And so our little old lady main character puts a stop to it and opens up an old can of worms. I've heard some people say that this book was a little bit too long. It does seem to be a little bit on the chunkier side. It's really not, though. Well, maybe it is. I feel like 300 to 350 pages is always perfect for a thriller. This one is 381, so it's slightly on the longer side, but I swear in the audio it really didn't feel like it. I just thoroughly enjoyed this, and the narrator just truly brought this character and this story to life. So I gave this one 4.25 stars. I definitely recommend it. Another one that I absolutely loved. This type of book is just right up my alley. So I read Best Offer Wins by Marisa Kashino. This is an ARC copy, and the book doesn't come out until November, but when I tell you I had such a fantastic time reading this, I'm not even kidding. This is just my type of book. It has an unhinged and a very unconventional female main character, and I'm a sucker for those. It follows a husband and a wife who live in an extremely small one-bedroom apartment. They are looking for a home with enough room to raise a family and that kind of thing, okay? But we're in a time where the housing market is completely atrocious. Like, they put in an offer and there's 20 other offers that outbid them by huge amounts. That's the situation we're in here. Now, our main character, Margot, feels like she's getting old, and now she's feeling the pressure of, we need to make this happen because my window for having a child, which they have infertility issues, so IVF and freezing her eggs and all of this stuff is coming into play. She's really feeling the pressure that if they don't get a home soon, she's never going to be able to have the family that she wants, and her obsession with this is putting a strain on their marriage. I love this book. Even just talking about it is making me relive it. It's so unhinged. They come across a home that they find out is about to be going on the market, and she is absolutely obsessed with this home. It's the perfect place. It's the dream home, and she wants it more than anything. So she is going to insert herself into the sellers. She's going to insert herself into their life so that she can weasel her way into making them accept her offer, knowing that they're going to get a million other offers that outbid her by quite a lot. And she will go to extreme lengths to make this happen. This book was a blast. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I highly recommend it. If you love an unhinged female main character, you'll enjoy this one. Then I read The Society of Unknowable Objects by Gareth Brown. This is the same author as The Book of Doors, and it is the same magical, atmospheric world of magical objects. If you read that book, you'll know what I'm talking about. I loved The Book of Doors so much, and this one did not disappoint. This book is magical and mysterious. It follows a secret society of people who know that there are magical objects out in the world, and their goal is to find them and keep them so that they can protect them from people in the world who would use them for terrible things and personal gain. It's kind of your typical battle of good versus evil, and it was like that in the Book of Doors as well. But it's just such a well done, well constructed world. The storytelling is super immersive, and this is the type of book that perfectly describes escapism to me, because you're placed into this world, and as you're reading, nothing else exists. If you're looking for an escape, if you're looking to be entertained, pick up this book or the other book. I highly recommend them both. I gave this one 4.5 stars. Far and Away by Amy Poeppel. I picked this book up thinking that it was going to be a romance, and it totally wasn't. But I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't, because this was a really good book. It's about strangers that agree to a house swap. We have one family in Berlin and one family in Dallas. Both of these families are dealing with their own issues that have nothing to do with each other, and circumstances lead them to agree to swap homes. So the Berlin family comes and lives at the home in Dallas, and the Dallas family goes to Berlin. And you just kind of follow each of their separate stories and what this move and this change like does to each of the families. And there's really not much more I can say about this. This was just a really fun, enjoyable story. I gave this one a solid 4 stars, and I feel like this is perfect for if you're looking for a palate cleanse, especially if, like me, you read a lot of thriller and horror. This was just a nice breath of fresh air. I read The House That Horror Built by Christina Henry, and I also enjoyed this one. This I gave 3.75 stars. It follows a woman who takes a job as a cleaner inside the home of a very well-known horror movie producer. And inside of his home, he has kept and collected over the years all of these horror movie props that have been used in these movies. So his house is very creepy. Suddenly, he starts getting creepy, and he's inviting her and her son over for dinner, and the house is being weird. That's pretty much what this one is about. It was enjoyable. I really did have a good time with this one. I will say it could have been a lot more creepy and atmospheric considering the setting that this is taking place in. So it did lack in that department a little bit, but I still enjoyed it. Then I read If You Stayed by Brittainy Cherry, and this is a romance book, but this was wonderful. I can't say enough good things about this. It's also very emotional, very triggering, but like the way it was done was just so incredibly well done. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and it follows a woman who is currently in a marriage that he's a monster. He's just a piece of crap, and he does not treat her right at all. He's a very wealthy man, but the only reason why she stays in this relationship is because he has a daughter, so her stepdaughter, that she absolutely loves, and she just can't imagine leaving her behind if she were to divorce him. We're introduced to another male main character who was her childhood best friend, and they had something extremely special together, but he had suffered an accident and had lost all his memories of her. So when they cross paths again, she knows exactly who he is, but he does not remember who she is. And this story is just so well done. It's just beautiful. I love this. Highly recommend. It's just great. I'm not going to say anything more about it. It's a great story. I read 2 little horror novellas. Look at the cover on this one. This one is absolutely insane, but I loved both of these. So I read A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck, and this is very, very short. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It is about a very religious and faithful man who has no doubt that he's going to go to heaven, but when he passes away, he ends up in a hell with a god that he does not recognize. And this hell is not like anything you would imagine it is, like in a book or in a movie or anything. Instead, this hell is an extremely vast library with countless, innumerous books. And within these books, these people here in hell have to locate the book that tells their entire life story in order to escape. This puts such a spin on what type of hell can be considered torturous. If you take a closer look at the cover, you like look at all of these are books. This is like the vast library that the book takes place in, and imagine having to go through all of those just to find, like day after day, hour after hour, just to find the one that's gonna set you free. This was just so unique, so profound, very disturbing in its own way. I loved this. Then we have The Girl in the Attic, another really short novella. This is extremely creepy, but I loved this as well. John Ashley is one of my favorite horror authors. He's an indie author, and I have not been disappointed by any of his books yet. This is about a mother and a daughter who live in this house, but there is a demon living in their attic, and she doesn't know what to do about this demon, so she just like occasionally feeds it so that it can leave them alone. It is the weirdest, craziest thing, but as the story progresses, the book starts to get more sinister, and it's really taking a toll on the mom. The way this turned out in the end, like the twist that was on this story blew me away. It's a short little read. It's extremely creepy. I kept the book face down whenever I had it out, like on my bed or when I was getting ready to read it. Like I just kept it face down because of this cover, but I loved it. I gave this one 4.25 stars. Then I read one of my most anticipated books from Rachel Harrison. Her new release was Play Nice, and I loved this. This was so much fun. It's my favorite Rachel Harrison book so far, hands down. It's a super multi-layered story about three sisters, and the main character that we follow is the youngest of the three. And she's also like the most, we'll say, rebellious. These three sisters grew up with their mom in a house that the mother was convinced was possessed. She was convinced the house was possessed. And so their childhood really took a toll on their childhood because their mother was mentally withering away inside of this home. And crazy things were happening, okay? In their adult years, they have not spoken to their mother in a really long time. They wrote her off and were just done with her. However, she passes away and leaves the house to the girls. Of course, the youngest one is the one who wants to go back inside the house, renovate it, and sell it, but the other two sisters want nothing to do with it. Adding to this story, aside from all of this family drama that's going on, their mother had also written a book of all the experiences that she had had inside of this house, and now the youngest daughter is reading it, and she's learning about her childhood for the first time. The drama in this book is so intense and just really builds throughout the story, as well as the atmosphere builds and the creepiness and the spookiness builds. Like, everything about this just continuously built throughout the whole story, which I loved. It also had humor, such a great sense of humor, which I love in a book. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really loved it. Okay, now I have two books that were okay, that I enjoyed, but weren't super memorable, we'll say. So the first one is Dearest by Jacquie Walters. I've been wanting to read this one for a really long time. This is like a fever dream of a book. This follows a woman who she's a new mom. She just had a baby and she's on her own. Her husband is away and she is going through all of the physical and mental and emotional struggles that come with being a new mother. I call this a fever dream of a book because the validation is there. She appears to be losing her mind. She is getting more and more just crazy and unhinged, but is she really getting crazy? Is there something sinister at work here? Or is it totally valid because she's a new mom and that crap is hard? Suddenly, her mother, who she does not really talk to anymore, she hasn't spoken to her in a long time, knocks on her door and shows up and says she's here to help with the baby. So things take a turn from there. Overall, I did enjoy this one. I gave it 3.5 to 3.75 stars. The ending did leave me with a few questions though, so that was that one. And the other one I have is Happy Wife by Meredith Lavender and Kendall Shores. This one was good. It was hard for me to put it down because I was just enjoying it and it was a very easy read, but it didn't blow me away. It follows a woman who's married to a guy that's a little bit older than her, and he likes to throw these like really elaborate parties. He is all about his public image and just that kind of situation, and he throws a really big party one night and he ends up going missing. Now, of course, all eyes are gonna point to this young wife and create those typical assumptions that she had something to do with it, but then we also have an ex-wife of his that comes into play as well. That's pretty much what this one is about. Like I said, it didn't necessarily blow me away, but I was definitely into the story. Like, I couldn't put it down and read it fairly quickly. I would recommend it if you're looking for just like a quick and easy read. I'd still say it's worth your time, but again, it didn't blow me away. I would also say I gave this one between 3.75 and 3.5 stars. Almost done. I have a few more. I have This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. I loved this book. This is a chunky book, and I'm telling you, I flew through this. The chapters are super, super short, and the story immediately hooks you and doesn't let you go. It is 100% a page turner, and this is for anyone who really enjoys true crime. It follows a woman who has just lost her dad, and in her grief, she ends up turning to an online community of sleuths, and these people who form a group together to investigate crimes that are going on in the world, and she throws herself into this as her newest passion and really just becomes one of the team. Now, in the story, there is a very high-profile murder that happens where a group of college kids are killed, and the media is all over this, and so are the internet sleuths. And so we journey with the team basically as they investigate this crime behind the scenes and come to their own conclusions and work out their own clues. And it really is just very hard to put down. It was very well done in like the immersive sense where you really felt like you were a part of the story. Totally, totally immersive. The only thing I will say that I wanted from this book was more of an in-depth epilogue. I wanted an epilogue to wrap up every single aspect of the story and every character, and it was a bit more vague than I wanted. I still loved it though and gave it 4.25 stars. The next one I read is 13 Months Haunted by Jimmy Juliano, and this was a really good one too. This totally has 90s vibes, and when you pair that with a horror book, I feel like it just gives a really cool atmosphere. It follows a school librarian who takes a strong interest in one of the girls who is very quiet, very secluded, very strange in a way, and her mother literally does not leave her side, like even throughout the entire school day. And this librarian is very curious about this situation. Then the horror part of the story takes you on a journey of a computer virus that can infect people in a possession type of way. And the computer virus is just what adds to those like 90s vibes. Like it just has such a cool atmosphere in that sense. But it was very unique, and overall I enjoyed it. I did give this one 4 stars, and if you read the book Polybius, I feel like it embodied that vibe very well, but this one was so much more well done. Next, I read one that I don't have a physical copy for, and that is Nobody Knows You're Here by Bryn Greenwood. This was so good. This is a held captive story about a woman who's being held captive in this house, and her job is that she is forced to take care of any of the children that they bring to that house who are also being kidnapped. That's really all I want to say about this one, because it's really all you need to know going into it, but this book was so good, very hard to put down, had really good mysterious vibes, and it's one of those stories that really made you like emotionally invest in each of the characters. I loved this one. I gave it 4 stars. There were a little bit of details lacking that I kind of wanted to know more about throughout the story, but still it was great. Overall, highly recommend. Then I read The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig, and this was another really good one. Very atmospheric, very unique. Definitely have not read anything like this before. It's about a group of kids, this friend group, who, when they were younger, they discovered a staircase in the woods. One of them went up the staircase and never came back down. We now follow this group of friends who are not really friends any longer. They're in their adult years. They all have gone separate ways and lived different lives, but they all reunite together because there is another staircase in the woods, and maybe it's about time to find out what happened to their friend all of those years before. This did mysterious and atmospheric super well. I also loved like the horror aspects of this book were totally there. I can honestly say that I thoroughly enjoyed every single one of the characters in their own way. They did not like blend together. They were all very different from one another and easy to keep track of. Sometimes when a story has too many characters, I get easily lost and then I kind of lose interest, but this one kept my attention the whole time. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a solid 4 stars. It so desperately needed an epilogue. I'm a firm believer that every single book needs an epilogue. I crave that type of closure in a book, and this one didn't have one. I was bummed about that. The last book I read is just a little one that's worth mentioning. It was The Wrong Woman by Daniel Hurst. He writes psychological thrillers that are very similar to Freida McFadden. They are page-turning, and the twists always get you and catch you off guard, but they also can tend to be very silly, like they're not really books that you could take seriously. That's exactly what this one, but I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.